Yesterday, eNCA brought you the story about how hackers made off with 300,000 rands from award-winning comedy and entertainment agency Goliath and Goliath. The hackers apparently have an F&B bank account and have been intercepting invoices and changing bank details. The company is sending a subpoena to the bank. Well, to talk more about this phenomenon, I'm joined by the South African Banking Risk Information Centre's CEO, Kalyani Pillay. Good evening, Ms. Pillay. Thanks very much for joining us. From the information you've gathered and from what you know, how does something like this typically happen?
So, Vuyo, this is very much what we call a change of bank account scam. So what happens is that the perpetrators, obviously, highly organized syndicates, having access to all kinds of resources to enable them to do what they do, they obtain information that allows them to get access to particular businesses or particular individuals, and they look at their debtor list almost, or their clients, people that they're providing services to, because in return those people would need to pay them. And what they do is that they purport, so it's basically identity theft of the business as well. They then purport to be that particular company, the vendor, and they then communicate with that company's clients and provide them with letters or emails telling them that the company has changed its bank account. And they then go ahead and provide a new bank account number and the new details of the account. Now, what they do also is that they're very smart in how they do this. So when they send out an email to the person who's supposed to be paying, and very often it's businesses, but it's also individuals. So as an example, they may alter the email address from which they're sending this particular mail out. So if, as an example, the email address ends with .co.za, they may change it to .com. Now, you and I, when we receive these mails, we don't sort of check all of those because we get a mail, and if it's from ABC company that we're dealing with, we just assume that it's from that particular company. Or sometimes they may even change one alphabet or add on something to the name in the email address, so it goes undetected by the person who's receiving it. And then, unfortunately, what happens is, we create a lot of awareness around this and give lots of advice to the public on behalf of the banks to alert them to these scams that are out there. And we say to people, the minute you receive any communication that tells you that the company that you're supposed to be paying has changed its bank account and the details of the new account are X, Y, and Z, and that you've got to pay into that account, you should immediately become concerned. Immediately, rather be a bit paranoid in terms of how you deal with this. Pick the phone up and contact the company that you've been dealing with, but don't use the contact details
that you've just been given,
because you're obviously going to be communicating with the perpetrator. So contact the company. And what we also advise people is make sure, especially when you're doing business, and whether irrespective of the amount, because nobody wants to lose any amount of money, but when you're interacting with a particular company, get to know somebody in that company that will be your point of contact. Somebody by name, somebody who you would get to know, and call.
But that comes at a premium. I mean, you have to be some premium banking client for you to have someone you deal with regularly. Otherwise, you deal with a call center.
Well, if you're receiving an invoice from somebody to pay, you will have somebody in the accounts division that would have sent that email out. So you can contact the accounts division of that particular company. Criminals are forcing us to do things differently. They're forcing us to behave differently. So we are advising people that now that we know that this particular scam is there, and it is quite prevalent, it's all over the world that it's actually happening, we're saying to people, you unfortunately have to be inconvenienced a little bit, but rather take those precautions and contact the company, verify, did you actually change your bank account? Is this now the new account that I have got to pay in? Then send them a communication confirming what you said. Unfortunately, especially big amounts of money that's involved, it's a really a traumatic and distressing thing to go through when you have to lose that kind of money.
But do these kinds of scams happen only in the manner that you've just describe?
Well, not necessarily. If it's change of bank account, then of course that's what you're going to get. You're going to receive a communication telling you the account has changed. But how do they actually get to do that? Because the question is, the perpetrators, how do they acquire the information of all the people that are actually owing money? So they basically have a list of the clients of this particular company, and that information can be acquired in many ways. You know, they could either have hacked into the account, email accounts of that particular company that they're purporting, or they are basically using to send out these communications.
But what about the banks? I mean, I was saying that the information that the banks have, you know, only them can use that. I was saying that there's no way that sophisticated fraudsters and thieves can actually have access to banking records and how the banks operate.
No, so even if, take as an example this particular situation that you provided, you say if they had access to a bank account, that's not what the issue is here. The issue is that they've contacted a particular company's clients saying, when you're making payment, pay into a particular account. So that's where the issue is. The other point is that they've acquired information. They know that if you are the owner of this ABC company and you are expecting money from 10 different clients this month, they now have access to those records, and they know that you have to pay 350 Rand, you have to pay 200 Rand, you have to pay 98,000.
Let's leave this case, this particular case for a second.
Yeah.
Have you not come across instances before where the bank is at fault, or at the very least has to be liable?
Well, not at all in these instances, purely because the client, the bank customer, has made the payment into a particular account. The bank doesn't feature in that sort of instance. So you've got an account, you're making a payment, you log on, you do an electronic payment, you insert the bank account details, you put in the amount, you get a screen that says confirm these details. You are supposed to double check all of that. So from where the bank would sit, or for the payment system, it will look at the account that you're making the payment through, and through the normal rules and processes, the payment will be processed. You know, so in this particular sort of instance, these are the things that happen. So the customer, or the owner of the bank account that's making the payment, is willingly making a payment.
Let's repeat that advice again. What are you advising our viewers to do or not do?
Well, I'm advising them not to ever go ahead and just make payment into an account where they've received communication that this particular company has changed their bank account details. Always, always verify it. But also very importantly, especially with online transactions, and most of us are transacting online these days, make sure that you have updated antivirus, anti-malware software. Make sure that your OS software also updated. Use very strong passwords. Don't use passwords that are easy for people to guess. Make sure that it's long, that it's got, you know, a combination of things that we always say to people. Check your sent items. You know, if you want to know whether you're part of the things that you should be doing if you're looking at email hacking, or someone hacked into your bank account, when you log on, one of the things you should do is go in and look at your sent items to see if there's any mails that have gone out that you actually didn't send. If you're getting responses back that mails are bouncing that you actually didn't send, these are all signs that you need to look out for. But you know, for your time is always never enough. So I would certainly advise people to go onto the SABRIC website. Under the category of Stay Safe, we have so much of advice on all these different aspects, and also on how to protect yourself and be cybersecurity savvy also.
Thank you, Kalyani.
A pleasure,
for coming through. Well, if you're wondering about the link with AfriHost, it is Goliath and Goliath's internet service provider.